So you've gotten into clinical research or you're interested in clinical research and you hear about these studies, people talking about good studies, bad studies. Well, what exactly makes a study good? What is a good study? Coming right up after the intro. Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about what makes a good study in clinical research. What makes a good study? So you've probably heard other people talk about, what is a good study? What is a bad study? Maybe some of your friends in the clinical research industry have said that before, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what exactly makes a good study? Or maybe you're getting into clinical research and they're about to allocate you to studies and you don't understand what is a good study and what is not a good study. Well, we're going to go over that today in detail. But really, one of the main things that makes a study good is really pretty much the leadership. And the leadership starts at the top. It starts with the sponsor. And they're the ones paying for the study, and they're the ones that are, responsible for the study. Everything virtually goes back on them, even though they delegate a lot of the tasks to a CRO and to sites to run the study. They are ultimately in charge of the study. So working with a good sponsor is one of the most important things that can make a study in your study experience good or bad. Now, a good sponsor is somebody who is going to be familiar with the clinical research process. They understand how it works. They understand things take time. They understand sometimes the CRO, when they bid up front for these studies, that they may have said, okay, it's going to take this amount of time to do something, will end up taking a week or two later. The sponsor is able to be flexible with that, and they're going to take that kind of in stride. So good leadership at the sponsor level is very important. They're going to pay on time. A lot of times studies run into trouble because either the sponsor has run out of money or they're hesitant with the payment. And if the money is funny, then the CRO is going to stop doing the work, and they're only going to do the work when they're getting paid for it, because it takes a lot of money to run these studies, and that's just how it goes. I've heard of stories, I haven't been on any studies like this, but I've heard of stories where, particularly smaller sponsors, maybe they only got one drug, and maybe this is their only drug they have that they're working on. And so they don't necessarily have the cash flow coming in from some of the other drugs that have successfully gone to the market. But there have been scenarios when, they literally can't pay because they've got investors that don't understand, that aren't as familiar with the clinical research process and how much money it costs. So sometimes sponsors can get themselves into trouble, and I'm primarily talking about the smaller ones, could get themselves into trouble when the money gets funny, because the CRO does not want to do stuff when they're not getting paid for it, because there's a lot of people that have to eat off that one study. So all that stuff kind of goes into leadership at the sponsor level. And really the sponsor, they're there to answer a lot of questions that the CRO may have with how they want things run. And they're really there to kind of help steer the ship and, see how the study is going to go from their perspective. And really the study is going to go how they want it to go. So leadership at the sponsor level, vitally important. And, I've been on studies before where the CRO did not like working with such and such sponsor. And they told them after the study that, hey, we need to stop our partnership and we're not going to work with each other anymore. That does happen. Sometimes sponsors can be really, really bad to work with. And, a lot of the times it's the company culture that they may have that can be bad. They may not be flexible. They may not be good at managing CRO. And it takes a certain type of skill and skill set. And we're going to kind of go into that with the next point here. So the second thing that makes a study good is obviously the project management team. That's the leadership group for the study. Everybody else feeds into them. Data management, trial master file, study startup. They all feed into project management, monitoring, clinical monitoring, and the clinical team. They all report to the project management team, and primarily the project manager. Now, they are extremely vital, and they would probably be number one if it wasn't for the sponsor being up ahead of them in terms of, paying for the study, paying for everything, and really dictating how things go from a macro perspective. But from the micro and a little bit of the macro perspective, the project manager and the project management team dictates so much of what makes a good study. And here's why. I've been on studies before with okay project managers, not necessarily bad project managers, because I don't think you'll last very long if you're bad, but okay and exceptional. I've been on a study before with an exceptional project manager, and I'm gonna tell you the difference there. One is she knew the protocol up and down. She knew that study up and down before we even started. She knew it. So clearly she must have been reading intently on the study and was extremely familiar with it. So anytime you asked her a question, she knew the answer and she responded back with the correct answer. And surprisingly, this person was actually not based in the same time zone as me, but she still was responsive. So clearly she was somebody who was dedicated to her job. I know that particularly she put in more than 8 hours a day, as project managers often do. They put in so many hours. So that's one thing you gotta be good at as a project manager, is you gotta be able to work hard and long. So one is the responsiveness of the project manager. Two is like the planning. The whole thing went smooth. There was not a single hiccup. I was on that project for, say, like 6-7 months or so, and there was not a hiccup to be felt on that project. It was crazy. You know, the interaction with the sponsor was extremely smooth, no rockiness. And I think because, you know, this particular individual was about to get promoted to be the next level project director. But so she had been a project manager for, I guess, a few years, 4 or 5 years up until that point. But she was extremely excellent. Amazing. The best project manager I've worked with thus far. And in particular, the planning, the flexibility, the composure under pressure. She had it all. She had every single attribute you could possibly want in that situation. You know, the project just went so smooth. I'm trying to tell you, if you know clinical research, if you've been in clinical research studies before, you know there's always something that comes out of left field. You know there's always some kind of issue that's going to come up to kind of derail things, and you've got to refocus and redirect the study back on course. But the study just went so smoothly with her, and that really stems from her leadership ability, her skills, and her knowledge base when it comes to both the protocol and the clinical research process. So that was huge. So the project management team makes a huge difference. And, you know, project directors have an important effect on the study, but they're usually spread pretty thin. They have a lot of studies that they're working on usually. Sometimes 8, sometimes 9. I've heard up to 9 studies at one time. So they help mediate between the project manager and the sponsor team. And they help mediate between the project team and the executive team at the CRO also. So that's really their role. The project manager is there doing the micro of everything and doing the day-to-day management. The project director is not really. I mean, they're just pretty much showing up for meetings and being kept abreast for things like that. But they are important. But the project manager is the one that is steering and driving that ship. And a good project manager, you know, they can fill holes in the weak parts of the team. Like I'm telling you, this lady was like the Michael Jordan. This amazing project manager I worked with was like the Michael Jordan of project management. And I just could not believe how much better she was than, you know, just the average project manager. And there are a lot of good project managers out there, but this woman was completely excellent, was for real excellent. And I think a lot of it was, you know, her work ethic and her planning and some of those other skills that they have, that she was just excellent all around. So, you know, in my mind, I think it's the project manager that is probably one of the most important aspects of a good study, because they're going to cover for you if they need to. They're going to fill in if they need to. For example, project managers typically don't monitor unless it's, you know, unless they have to or something like that. Something weird comes up. But, you know, they're going to be able to fill in and monitor if they need to, if there's no other backup, clinical trial lead is out or something like that. You know, they can fill in and do that. They can fill in and take meeting minutes. They can, you know, fill in here. They can fill in there. They're just so versatile. And that flexibility and ability to be versatile and a project manager, can really make a good study, as well as a learning opportunity if you're coming in under them at an entry level. But, all of that just goes to show how a good study is going to be run smoothly. And they're going to know there's going to be focus, there's going to be attention to detail on the study. There's going to be, the ability to move quickly and advance the study forward, to meet deadlines, all this stuff. And that really stems from, the sponsor team and the project management team, but primarily the project management team. So that's what makes a good study. That's who has the effect on if a study is good or not. As far as like the nitty gritty of a study, they're all going to have the same type of things. They're all going to have, trial master file. They're all going to have a CTMS system, clinical trial management system. They're all going to have, a electronic data capture. They're all going to have source documents. There's all going to have the typical stuff on a study. So what dictates if it's good or not is not necessarily the study. I mean, it could be the indication if you are, if we're talking about that, but indication agnostic, it's really going to be the project management team that dictates it. And you're going to feel it at all different aspects of the study. If you're in data management, you're going to feel if that project manager is good or not. If you're monitoring, once again, you're going to feel if that project manager is good or not, because they just have so much impact across the study that if they suck, you're going to know. And if they're really excellent, you're going to know also, because you're going to be like, wow, things are going so well. Things are going so smoothly right now. And they're just that important. So that's what really makes a good study in my eyes. What do you think makes a good study? Comment that down below. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, you can come on YouTube and comment, or you can email us that question. As always, guys, email me, eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com, for any inquiries you may have, resume review, interview prep, any type of clinical research questions you may have. You can also call me, 910-502-3932. All right, guys, take care.